Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the holidays. It's gaming on every platform, but we're here to talk about gaming on the Xbox platform, which, in my opinion, is the best place to play. And listen, if you don't like it, what can I tell you? It just is what it is. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have three massive topics to get into. One, we'll be talking hardware. Two, well, you see it. The announcement from Bungie has confirmed the 2026 release date for Marathon. And folks, guess what? It's going to have a $40 price point. I don't know how badly that's going to hurt the game, but we're going to get into it because we could be looking at CONCORD 2.0. Oh, no. And then we're on the back end of the show. Well, look, the last topic is going to be one of those conversations that kind of walk a lot of different paths, but ultimately get to the same location. And you're going to have to walk with me on this, folks, but we'll get there when we get there. But Infinite Umbra, my brother from another, how you feeling?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, chat. Yeah, man, happy to be here. And probably a little lower energy than I want it to be, but I'm here.
Well, listen, we'll make sure that we'll whisper, call outs to you to make sure that you don't fall asleep. Because listen, when you work midnights, folks, the guy is here at 12 o'clock every Tuesday. Sometimes the body is telling him he can't be here. Well, today he is here. And Jamie Moran, if you're wondering where our brother from across the pond is, apparently his computer decided to do a diagnostic check while he was waiting to go live. So he should be joining us momentarily. And thank you, Infinite Umbra, for that message, because it's one that I missed. Because, listen, I'm doing real work, folks, outside of podcasting. You know what? I'd like to say that I enjoy working out 4 days a week. My workout schedule has been effed. I have just not had the time or the mind to get into working out, my 4 days a week, as I've been doing almost every week for the entire year. So I'm not saying that I'm lazy. I ran out of time, and it doesn't look like that's gonna get fixed until at least the holidays pass. But I'm going to give it the old college effort. But ladies and gentlemen, you're not here to hear about my workout schedule. You're not here to hear about Umbra sleeping or whether or not he's awake. You're here to talk about video games. Now, look, while we await the return or the entrance of Jamie Moran, Umbra, I want to bring the Bungie conversation right out and open. Look, here's the thing. Right now, if you just take a step back and you look at the multiplayer gaming space, it's very crowded. It's a very crowded space. And this has two sides. One of which is your free-to-play. Now, your free-to-play games equate to Call of Duty Warzone and Fortnite and Apex Legends. And now, one of the biggest stories of 2025, Marvel Rivals, right? These are all free-to-play. These are taking up a lot of the gamers' time and taking their money because people are investing into these free-to-play games via skins, via map packs, via monthly and weekly events. It's become the thing. But then you turn around and you look at the paid for side of multiplayer, and that's also a very crowded venue. You have your Call of Duties. You have your Battlefields. And you know what? Interestingly enough, I forgot to mention Battlefield 6 RedSec. That's also free to play. So now you're talking about a very, very crowded free to play market and a current very crowded paid for market. And that paid for includes Call of Duty and Battlefield, which are both doing well. Now, obviously, depending on who you hear from, they'll try and sell you on this lie that Battlefield is failing. Or even worse, Call of Duty's failing. Both are doing well. One may be doing better than the other. If you look at especially when you look at the stats for console gaming, it's either 1, 2, or 3 for Call of Duty. Battlefield finds its way 5, 6, or 7, right? But there is another game that seems to have taken up the paid for zeitgeist, and I don't know why that game escapes me. What the hell is the extraction shooter that's out right now, Umbra?
There are a few. You talking about the biggest one, Arc Raiders?
Yes, thank you, sir. Arc Raiders is a $40 game. Arc Raiders is an extraction shooter, and I've actually seen articles where it's kind of like been considered like some sort of a community experiment in regards to people helping each other, people being total D's and taking all your stuff. That happens in multiplayer. It's basically like the Dark Zone, except it's an extraction shooter, and it's not just one area, it's the whole freaking game. So you can run across really good people and really terrible people. So the reason I went down this very long path, Umbra, is to now introduce Bungie's Marathon into the conversation. And this is where I think this game is going to have a massive steep hill to climb. Because if it were to be a free-to-play game, just go back to the name titles that I mentioned: the Marvel Rivals, the Fortnites, RedSec from Battlefield 6. You have Call of Duty Warzone. You have Apex Legends, and the list continues to go on because there are other things in there as well. But this game isn't going to be free to play, and I think that was at least in my personal and professional opinion, the one shot that it had. This game has a lot of stink on it. Now, granted, we did get some information from a few of the artists that their lawsuits were settled. There weren't any specifics, but they said that they walked away satisfied, is the words that they used. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But apparently, whatever art assets that were stolen were now paid for in one way or another. There is a lot of, trouble at Bungie. Leadership has not been great, to be honest with you. It's had a lot of ups and downs. And Umbra, we have a game coming out that is a extraction shooter that is, again, it's the space is narrow for these types of extraction shooters. They're not for everybody. They are for some gamers because obviously Tarkov has been around for years and continues to grow. Our Arc Raiders continues to see success. That's an extraction shooter, but it's one with a twist. Marathon, I think, might be in a potential lane, in a CONCORD lane. And CONCORD, we know, had 11 days before it was canceled. Now, look, I'm going to be honest, and I want this to be clear. I am not suggesting that this game is going to fail. I'm not hoping that this game is going to fail. What I am saying is that it is coming out in a loaded, both free to play and paid for lane, and I don't think that it could win. And again, this is just my take on it. The $40 price tag on this game, that is going to be a multiplayer. a multi-plat game. It's coming to everywhere. I don't know if this has any. I don't know, Umber. I want to bring you in. Do you think that Marathon has legs to potentially succeed in these markets where they have so many rivals?
Anything is possible. I just don't know if this is probable.
Okay, that's a fair point.
And I'm typically an optimistic guy. I think this game is dead on arrival, personally. Maybe they'll turn it around. It's possible. I mean, it is Bungie. They're a storied developer. They have a certain cult following that's going to be like, this might support them. But you don't see any ups, like you don't see any like hype for this, right? It's all been negative. The only positive I've seen in recent times was the artist who got I believe it was a woman, right? She had her art stolen and or appropriated by somebody on the team, which now Sony and Bungie had to pay off. That's been the only positive, I guess, that you can kind of say around the game. And so everything else has still been kind of, met with mid reactions and lukewarm reactions. So I don't know. If Concord set a record with 11 days, this might be 9 or 10 or 8. You know what I mean? And I think the price point is still a part of the issue. We talked about this some time back, me and Danny on the show on the fix, and as well as Crusader. And Crusader is a major Destiny fan. So I asked the question, I said, how much would be too much basically for you all if you played this game? Like, what could they charge that would make or break it for you? And from what I've already seen, I was already like, and much like our brother Nino in the chat, I don't really care for extraction shooters. That's why I hadn't played Arc Raiders, although I do want to play it. I don't really typically get drawn to that, and I prefer having something with a story and then also a multiplayer mode, if you will, because I've been spoiled by Xbox with them giving us both so long. So I can't just stay dedicated only to multiplayer. That all said, I mean, I won't count Bungie out because they know what they're doing. But I just think that there's been a lot of bad juju around this game already, and that price point doesn't help. And it's just, to be honest, I know it has a unique art style that could lend itself to lasting for a long time, right? There is that. I just don't think it's that appealing. When I see it, it looks dated. It looks uninteresting. It looks, well, largely uninteresting. There are some elements that I liked, but it looks largely uninteresting. It looks, what's the word? Sterile. Like, if you look at it, it's very clean kind of styling to it, right? Yes. It just looks sterile. It doesn't look like, oh man, I got to get in this. It just doesn't appeal to me. And again, maybe I'm the wrong person to really ask this because I'm not the biggest fan of extraction shooters anyway. So this doubly so for me is like, like Arc Raiders, I can see myself getting into that. That looks good. It looks fun. It looks interesting. I like the advent of the, you know, the PVE and having to combat like the robots and stuff like that, like Skynet out there. So that's pretty cool, along with you actually competing with other players. So I think that's cool. I'm sure they're going to have bots in this too to play against. And I don't mean Xbox players, but you know what I mean. But I just feel like, again, I think it's anything is possible. I just don't think it's probable in this instance. And going to your point, you asked about other games, like other games that's out there, the extraction shooters or just shooters, right? It doesn't even necessarily have to be extraction shooters because it's all in the same genre, just a different type of genre, right? It's still shooters. So you got Escape from Tarkov, you have Arc Raiders, we got Call of Duty out there, right? It's the field is, you got Battlefield 6. You have so many major releases out there that are going to continue to keep their base locked in place, and I don't see Marathon being the game to pull them away from it. That's the bigger problem. You know what I mean? Like, also too, I said that I felt that a free to play may have been the smarter play for them to go with this. So $40 sticker tag isn't that crazy. To be fair, it's not crazy.
No, it's a, what would we I think all of us would consider a budgeted price.
Yeah, and I just feel like, we've seen there's been this advent of free to play that has worked well for a lot of different games. Hell, you look at where wins meet, free to play.
Yeah,
I'm still shocked by that because you go into the game, it's actually really solid cutscenes and things like that. It's decent action too that you would get in a premium release, title. And or if you look at other just free to play, shooters, there are I forgot to mention something like Fortnite that's also taking attention away, right? Like, there's so many, I would say the genre is just flooded with shooters in one way or another. And if you're not doing anything that sets yourself apart from those, I don't see how you're going to really gain traction, honestly. and this may be a case of Bungie kind of being aged out of where they need to be. You know what I mean? At least, or getting to the scene a little too late. Um, Also, too, there, like I said, there has been a lot of, to me, I think it's been met with a very lukewarm reception,
Yep.
and like there's a lot of skepticism around the game. You see it all over. Everybody, it has been pretty. I don't want to just say negative, but people have been very skeptical about the game. People who have played the beta or whatever it was that released that they got into, even they were like, it's okay, but
Right.
it's been very mid reactions, if you will. So I just don't know, man. I just don't see this going well for them. Obviously, they have pedigree with
Yes.
Destiny and the free to play
Mhm.
reign, right? So it's not like there's something new for them. I just think, sometimes I think gaming or anything is sometimes about timing, and I think they are essentially out of place on this, honestly. Just because, and then you have again so many major heavies out there right now that you have to pull people from. I just don't think this would do it. You know what I mean? I just don't think this will be what they need it to be. Um, did you want to ask another question on this? Because I did see how you had it set up, but I don't want to know if you wanted to, or I can keep
Well,
going if you
look,
want.
you said something that's very interesting. You said the word legacy, right? Bungie is a legacy developer. You know who's also still around and considered a legacy developer, but has not been able to have a hit in 3 or 4 games? Right?
Who would
It's
that be?
BioWare. They
Hmm.
have become another BioWare. Because here's the thing: if you we're talking about current Bungie, we're not talking about Halo Bungie, right? That's decades ago. They have moved on.
Mhm.
Obviously, they come out with Destiny, and why I think that they are really up against it here is for a multitude of reasons, right? This is one of those trying to ice skate uphill situations, right? They had a couple of expansions come out that they're known for in their Destiny, franchise. Um, they they were critically reviewed well, but no one bought them. People are over Destiny, right? People didn't want Destiny to end. They thought that instead of Marathon, they should have just come out with Destiny 3. I don't know if that was the right call or not. I'm not going to make that decision. I don't run the studio. What I can ask and what I will continue to ask is, when you have the stink that this game has on it from a multitude of points of contention, right? The art assets that were stolen, not by just one artist, but by a multitude of them. Whether they are being taken care of or not, they were still it's still public knowledge. It's still a smear on this game, right? You heard a lot of people that broke NDAs about the beta, about the private betas, that it wasn't good. Which, of course, if you ever sign an NDA, folks, don't break them. You can get sued, so don't do that. But then we heard the open beta, and it wasn't good, like you mentioned, right? You're up against both free to play and paid for games that are basically taking up most of the gamers that play these games their time. Is there room for a extraction shooter? The answer is I don't think that there is. I know that you said that you like being more positive, negative, and I'm not trying to be negative about it. What I'm saying is that the information that we have on this game is just not good, and
Yeah.
it's coming out next year, Umbra, and it's going to come out in a time where what I want to do. I want to close the circle, because there's a lot of noise that's surrounding this game, but I want to tighten the circle here and walk with me on this one, folks. Next year, you have this game coming out. You're still going, and again, mind we've closed the circle. We're only going to mention a couple games here. Arc Raiders is still going to be around. It's an extraction shooter that was $40, right? There's Black Ops 7, which is, of course, a paid for game. There is Battlefield 6. Those are your paid for games that this game is up against. But then if you take another 3 games from the free to play, you can add your RedSec, you can add your Fortnite, you can add your Warzone. Now, maybe RedSec isn't as big as Warzone. Maybe Warzone has fallen off. It's still a free to play game. If you want to get a little cheeky, you throw Marvel Rivals in there, and you're talking about this thing being pressed on both sides. So Bungie coming off of lackluster, releases for Destiny 2, right? There's no Destiny 3. They're apparently working on something. We don't know what it is. And this game is going to come out, and the helpings for what is expected to be attached to this $40 price point, 4 maps, a couple of skins, it does not seem like it's worth the price of entry. They're going to have to, drop content. The one of the things that free-to-play games or paid-for multiplayer games need is content. And this doesn't seem to have it already. My question is to you. You want another question? Do you have faith that Bungie is going to be able to keep up with the content for this game? My answer is absolutely not. That studio is a wreck right now.
I do not know if they can or not. I think they might have something mapped out. I think the bigger problem is just that will anybody care? It goes back to the whole, if a tree falls in a forest and nobody sees it or hears it, did a tree fall, right? I think they have that problem. And going back to your point about BioWare, that's actually a pretty apt comparison, because
thank you, sir.
BioWare and Bungie are devoid of their previous talent. This is not the same Bungie that made Halo. Nope. This is not the same BioWare that made the Mass Effects. All of those people, most of them have moved on at the very least. I think 343 has more old Bungie developers on it than actual Bungie right now.
Yeah.
So which is fitting, but yeah, it's just, I don't know if they got it mapped out. I mean, they had extra time, so it's a possibility. And again, they do have, what's the word I want to use here? They do have a pedigree for doing live service games. So I wouldn't discount them and say they don't have anything. I just don't think it'll matter. That's the bigger problem, And one of the things I thought maybe you might ask is, would this spell doom for them? That's the bigger.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next go-to question.
Yeah.
Let's try. And again, folks, you got to remember, no one's dooming and glooming. We are having an adult conversation. I know some people in the chat are all in their feelings. Listen, nobody wants to see Bungie go the way of BioWare or the Dodo, for that matter. But they kind of stepped in it, and they put themselves in the place where they are. That's their doing. That's not anything that we did, certainly by talking about them. So don't get in your feels over this. But this is a great question. Is this if they fail here, is this the end of Bungie? I'll make it short and sweet, and I want to hear what Umbra has to say. But my answer is, unfortunately, yes. They will become a support studio, because I don't think Sony is going to keep up, paying to have this studio around if they cannot produce a game that's going to make money. They spent, ladies and gentlemen, $3.6 billion for Bungie. Think about that for a second. Please continue, Umbra.
Yeah. On top of the price they paid to retain that talent, I don't think Sony has had a return on investment. Then also, nope. You look at the other teams they've had that canceled games and stuff by using Bungie as the, I guess, the savant to pick talent in games that might do well. And then you have your game flop. I know the other developers are probably like, hold on, wait a minute now. You had them come in and evaluate us, and our game that we've been working on for years had got canceled. They get theirs to come out and it flops. I can imagine that's going to bring about some type of negative morale. One, two, yeah, I'm with you, Boom. I think that obviously they have the bit of the safety net with Sony, but Sony is not what's the word I want to use? They're not they're not clear
Cash
or
strapped.
right. They're not above, or at least they're not. What's the word I want to? It's the word I'm trying to find. They are not so solvent that they can afford to have such losses back to back to back. We've already seen they have laid off teams as well. It's like it's not people tend to focus on Xbox and Microsoft a lot when it comes to that, but Sony laid off a ton of people too. Sony closed studios as well, and Bungie, as storied as they are, we've had plenty of storied developers close. You know what I mean? So this is very. I would think that what would happen is they'll let members of the team go, still use Bungie as experts in the field of live service because they still have some aspirations in that. Though I think Sony has kind of fallen back a little bit. Clearly, they had the 12 games live service, which was just foolish, and I think we all said that. I know our Hoover brothers did. I saw them; they were not pleased with that.
Mhm.
So I think that they might use them in that capacity, but I would think that they would let go of a significant amount of people from Bungie, possibly, and possibly try to integrate them more because there was that that clause that I think Bungie had where they would have to be able to make. Well, I forgot how it works for them, but they had a bit of a clause that would protect them a little bit before they would be ushered into Sony proper.
If they fail to make a certain amount of money or hit certain deadlines, I think that's actually transpired already. Because you got to remember the board that made up of Bungie and Sony was 3 Bungie, 2 Sony. Now it's flipped because they failed. So now it's 3 Sony, 2 Bungie, and Sony, being even though they're the owner, they had a contract and they could not meet the expectations of the fiscal responsibilities. That's why the board changed.
Right.
So
So
now Sony is in control of the Bungie board with 3 Sony representatives, where Bungie only has 2.
yeah, I think this could be a problem for them. Yeah. So like, yeah, I feel like clearly, like I said, Bungie has expertise in this field of live service, but if this fails, I see some major restructuring going on, where they're going to lay off a lot of people, and unfortunately, and they probably use, or maybe if either they're downsized and used sparingly in a way to help other teams get their games off, like as support studios or something like that, or maybe they'll be limited to. I don't know. I don't know how they'll be used, man. But I feel like if they fail here, we're going to see some layoffs at the very least, and then some restructuring. However, Sony goes about applying it.
Well, you also got to take into account, and again, we just got a message from Jamie. He should be here momentarily. So he said he's dying to talk about this. So we'll get his hot take for sure. But you also got to remember, this is something else. Again, one may not have to do with the other one to one, but it is a conversation that needs to be had anyway. You got to remember Jade Raymond, who left, whether it were on her own accord or she was forced out. We still don't have a word on fair games, bro. Right? So that could be another potential Concord type of situation where that game doesn't even get released. Right? Like we heard people that played it said that there was rumors when she was announced she was leaving that the people that played it said it was freaking terrible. So you have this looming. You have the release of you had the Concord situation, which is a $700 million bath, right? After it's all said and done. You have a $3.6 million investment into Bungie that seems to be a big old pile of what. And we still haven't no idea what's going on with fair games. We know that Jane Raymond is gone.
That's another dead on or arrival. Fair games. I forgot that they hadn't even canceled that. I don't know what they're waiting for, like at the right time.
They haven't canceled it as of yet, but that could be any day now.
I forgot that they didn't cancel that because in my mind,
Mm.
in my the lore in my mind is fair game was fairly canceled already. But yeah, that's right. They did not. All you lost her though, and everything. I think a few other people though on the team. So like, what would be the point at this point for continuing on? Again, it's very confusing because even if you ignore, like Sony's not at fault for Bungie on this instance, but fair game situation with Jay Raymond leaving like that, I wonder what caused that. But it would also make you wonder why they were so quick to get rid of the Last of Us on factions the way they did, and even with Insomniac making the Spider-Man, which I thought was just dumb. I thought that would have taken off crazy for
That would have
them.
made big bucks. They'd have got my money because I'd have bought all those outfits.
I would have been in that, yeah, swinging around. It was a team of Spider-Men and women and taking down crime. Yeah, that would have been dope. I don't know why they thought that shouldn't have went through. And even the leak that we saw, it looked pretty good. I know it was very early, but like if anybody I would trust to iron that out will be Insomniac. I just feel like they I don't know if I mean this. I guess if anything, this tells us that making games are not easy. I think we can all agree there. But getting into something like live service is even tougher compared, especially when you have so much competition and you, like you said earlier, you have to have so much content lined up. I mean, we saw that with Halo. Halo had to learn the hard way, So like it's tough, man. But yeah, I just feel like this feels here. I feel one is going to bring down morale because a lot of teams are probably going to feel a way that the team that Sony put in charge of, if their game could even come out, had their game come out and flop.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
yeah, I agree.
It's going to be interesting to see, I suppose, and in the worst of ways. But yeah.
Again, it's going to be a potentially rocky start for PlayStation in 26. We know they have a couple of games coming out in the form of Wolverine, which I freaking cannot wait for. I'm a Marvel stan. I am a huge fan of Insomniac games. I think what they've done with Spider-Man have been incredible.
Boom, give us the Logan Wolverine voice, Boom, from the
I don't know if I don't know if I can, but I can give you I can give you the New York Logan.
How's the New York Logan go?
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. I'm the best there is.
That was probably terrible, but listen,
you got to hit him with the grovelly with a boom. I'm the best there is at what I do, and what I do ain't pretty.
You could actually voice Wolverine. You actually sound better than me for sure.
You got to Gene randomly too. Gene.
Yeah, there you go. That's well. Listen, you sing, so there you go. But look, we're still waiting for Jamie. He should be here in a few minutes. But you know what? While we're waiting, folks, I want to tell you about today's episode that's being sponsored by Aniba. Now, Aniba.com is a place where you can get digital content. You know that we recently announced that we partnered with Aniba. It is a really, really big deal for us. And right now, folks, they are running an incredible sale, especially on Xbox Game Pass. And well, this is an Xbox show, so I do want to bring this up on the screen here so I can show you. Now, depending on your region, if you look at the United States price, right now a 3-month card is $51.71. You can go to Aniba.com by you simply using the code, the link that I just dropped into the chat. This will take you right there. It is directly linked with Double Barrel Gaming. And obviously, look, right now everyone's trying to save a buck or two. Now, I know that some stores still have the $60 cards, and you can buy those cards from Best Buy and Target and Walmart and all your favorite retailers. But the reason why you want to go and you want to buy your digital content from Aniba is you see that little thing where it says cash back. Well, every purchase that you make, certain purchases give you cash back. That cash back collects into your Aniba account. And you can use that. Basically, it's like points that you get from Xbox, except they would be points and cash back that could be used for other digital items within Aniba.com. They're one of the few that actually offer a cashback program, and that cashback just gets collected and saved for you when you want to use it. And of course, again, use the link that I'm dropping it again in here, folks. Again, this is a really big deal. I know you don't like to hear, commercial, things, that we talk about, but YouTube is a business. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's a way for Mrs. Boom to eventually stop working because she owns the channel. And it would be great to have more partnerships right now. We have Aniba. We also have Valari. And we are going to announce a couple of them next year that have us very excited. And again, folks, for a small channel with only 16,000 subscribers, this is a monster-sized deal. Both those companies reached out to us, and we want to see more added to the ranks of partnered, things that we can do here on the channel. So again, folks, if you are someone that is looking for savings on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, look no further than Aniba.com. And all you have to do is use the link that I just put into the chat, and you will not only get cash back on all your purchases, you're going to save $1 or $3 on your Xbox Game Pass, subs. So go ahead and check that out. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear me talk about this. But you know what? We have to bring in Jamie Moran because here he is. Jamie, let's bring him in. Jamie Moran, good afternoon, kind sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry you had some PC issues, but you said you were jazzed to talk about Marathon, and I'm sure because you are a fair-minded, gamer, it's not going to be all doom and gloom, but there are certain concerns for Bungie on what they will do if this game fails. Let's get your thoughts on the confirmed $40 price point for this game that apparently does have a lot of stink added to it. What are your thoughts, man?
Well, hey guys, sorry about that. My PC did a memory diagnostic out of nowhere for some reason. I mean, PC's never done this before, and my PC picked the perfect time ever to need new RAM. My God in heaven, please help me. But no, the Marathon situation. I kind of just laughed when I saw this popping off yesterday because, Arc Raiders came along, and I've been talking about Escape from Tarkov for ages because I've known for a long time that it'll never come to console. We'll get to that in a moment. But Arc Raiders comes along. It has its interesting universe, these massive robots, and it's just a very good game. Like, I don't like multiplayer that much. I rarely play multiplayer, but Arc Raiders has me by the gonads, right? I cannot stop thinking about Arc Raiders. It is so good. It's so fun. And I think one of the reasons why it's resonating with a lot of people is that it actually reminds me of 2009 Call of Duty, where everyone was in open lobbies talking to each other. You don't typically have that in multiplayer now. But with Arc Raiders, you're encouraged to talk to other people, and it just works, right? You'll have some deep arguments. You'll make friends with randoms, all that stuff. You'll double cross people. You'll get double crossed or triple crossed, which I found out last night. And it's just fun. A lot of people are discovering this game because extraction is essentially a new genre for especially console gamers, right? We have a few extraction games on console. Let me tell you, as someone that's been watching Escape from Tarkov for years, the ones we have on console are not good. Terrible, awful. I won't mention the names of these games because I don't want to, bash the developers, but my God in heaven, these games are trash, as an American would say. And, Arc Raiders comes along and it's borderline perfect, right? So you have Marathon, and it's made by one of the most, iconic game studios of all time, Bungie, right? They have this kind of quirky. I actually like the art style of Marathon. Not the stuff they stole, of course, but just the base look of it. And they're coming out in a time where Arc Raiders is going to have millions and millions of players. They're going to have a bunch of updates out. The Snowfall update is out today. And people are just going to be playing this a lot over Christmas. It's going to be a big Christmas game. And, you have Marathon where people have been saying it should be free to play. And I used to be on the fence of it. Yeah, it should have been free to play. But I actually think, these $30, $40 price games are actually okay. I actually think that Marathon stands a chance now because of Arc Raiders, right? Because before, oh, my phone's going off. Before, whenever people talked about Extraction, they would always get it mixed up with Battle Royale games, right? They would always talk about it like it was a Battle Royale. But Arc Raiders kind of explained to people this is what an Extraction game is. And I think Marathon actually stands a chance now. I think the only things that going against Bungie and Marathon is that, Arc Raiders is so huge. What's their hook? Because the hook to Arc Raiders is the robots, right? There's giant robots. There's some that's the size of buildings, There's one called the Emperor, which no one's actually seen yet, and it's literally a city-sized robot, right? But in this, we don't really know what the hook is, You can take down a certain enemy, like class style, and you'll go invisible for a few seconds. It's like, is that the hook for the game? I don't know. But I think another thing that's going against it is the fact that they haven't really had a big public test. Whereas Arc Raiders, that tech test back in September or whatever it was, did Arc Raiders wonders, right?
Yeah.
And explain to people what an Extraction game was. I think Sony's going to have to be very careful how they market this game. They did say that there's going to be a solo-only queue, which is good. They're going to have proximity chat, which is good. But I think the thing that's going against Marathon is mainly its hook. What's the thing that's going to make people keep going back to it, right? Is it going to have wipes? And for people that don't know, most Extraction games have these wipes where basically your entire inventory gets wiped every season, kind of like how you get a battle pass every 60 to 90 days. Same thing, just you get your stuff wiped. How are they going to do that? They've already confirmed that there's kind of going to be a battle pass in the game. They've showed the menu of the game, and the very top thing of the menu is store, right?
Yeah.
And Bungie's been kind of criticized over the years of how they monetize their games with microtransactions and currencies and all that stuff. And then you see this menu, and the very first thing you see is store. It's not a good look. I hope the game's good. I've been one of the few people that have been rooting for this game because I'm interested in the Extraction genre. But people need a hook for the game, right? I think that they need a public tech test soon, have it up for maybe even 2 weeks. They need to tell people how many maps there's going to be, but they have to be very specific and be very concise with how they launch this game because everyone's comparing it to Arc Raiders now, right? People have had a taste. They know what Extraction is. But if you have a choice between Arc Raiders, this game that's been out for months, has millions of players, but you also fight these huge robots, right? And there's no wipes, and you have this where we don't know what the big hook is. That's going to be the big thing going against it. I hope the game succeeds because competition is always good. But man, March is a big month for video games.
It is.
We have Crimson Desert. We have the new 007 game. It's a great month for video games. So it's an uphill battle. It's going to be tough, but we'll see what happens.
Again, it's going to be very interesting to see how much patience PlayStation has for Bungie. And again, I don't think that this is a pass or fail situation, right? I don't think that if it fails, Bungie's gone tomorrow. I don't think that if they do well, that they're going to be let off the hook about, having, content and what's going on with potentially Destiny 3, if that's going to be a thing. But you got to remember, this was a $3.6 billion investment. Think about that. They spent $3.6 billion on this studio and its IP. And according to Jim Ryan, who was probably fired because of this, said that this was the better deal over ABK. Look how that turned out for good old Jimmy boy. Not so well. But look, This has been a great opening salvo. We do have 2 monster-sized topics to get into, but before we do, I do want to catch up on super chats here. We have a couple of them, and the first member chat of the day is Sith Lord, my brother from Chi-Town. He's been a channel member, ladies and gentlemen, for 44 months. He goes on to say, Umbra, battle for the North Saturday time to take out the stinky cheese bear down. Happy holidays.
When I hear it like that, it sounds like he's speaking of in Game of Thrones terms. For the
Yes.
North. Yes, the Bears are looking great this season.
They are. They're looking really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope. Listen, I haven't watched football like that in a long while, but even that part of me, I can't let go. Destroy the Packers. Yes, destroy them.
Well, it's gonna be good. Nonetheless, this is a play of football for pretty much everybody that's still in it. So it's gonna be fun. So shout out to Sith Lord. Thank you so much for being a channel supporter for as long as you have. Scott Gamer Dude, what's going on, brother? Nice to see you here as always. Scott, he drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, I found a bunch of Sony games on sale for Black Friday. I'm playing on my Legion Go full screen mode. Legion Go is my Xbox PS5 device now. That's awesome. I know it has a bit of a bigger screen, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty dope. But yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. I've been using the Xbox Ally X almost every day. And you know what it is? I don't travel a lot, so I don't play like the big third-party games on there. Like I've tried them. I've played a lot of the Outer Worlds 2, but I play a lot of smaller games like Marvel's Invasion. That I've been playing on there. Ball X Pit is great on that handheld. So I've been Vampire Survivors is another great game on there. So I've been enjoying it. For me, it's been well worth the money. I'm glad I did buy it. Glad that you're enjoying yours. And yeah, I didn't buy a lot of stuff on Black Friday for Sony. I mean, there's going to be sales, so I'm going to wind up picking up a lot of those Sony games as well. But there's been a lot of free stuff on Epic Game Store, and they have a whole Christmas list of stuff. And Red Dead 2 is supposedly dropping as a free game. Definitely get that. We also have a gifted sub here. Actually, 2 gifted subs. The first one comes from our generous friend all the way from Hawaii, Nino Vestek. Brother, thank you so much for what he does almost every show. We truly appreciate the crazy generosity. He has gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. Please, if you did get the sub from this man, thank him. And that is very kind. He doesn't have to do that. He does practically every day. So thank you so much for the support, brother. Also, not to be outdone, Scott Gamer Dude has also gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. So thank you for the additional generosity, Scott. We definitely appreciate that. And we have here a super chat from Forehead Gaming. That is a very scary picture. He drops a very generous $2 super chat. And of course, he's not talking about Reforge Gaming. He's talking about Forehead Gaming, which I didn't know existed, but now we do. Thank you so much for the very generous $2 super chat. He says, Xbox will dominate in 2026. And you know something, folks? We're going to use that as a segue into our next topic. Ladies and gentlemen, look, we got to... You know what? I don't know if you follow them, but I do. There is a Twitter or X account, whatever you want to use, called let's see, it says Xbox News for Koreans. I love the site. I think they are on top of the pulse of Xbox news. And you know what's interesting? We've been getting a lot of information in the last couple of weeks, Infinite Umbra, for Xbox and 2026. Their games, potential hardware, a roadmap that might be unlike anything we've ever seen, a 25th anniversary. It's going to be a celebratory year from January 1st all the way through December 31st of next year. We are expected to have some big announcements. We heard Matt Booty and his interview with Variety, where he came out and said that we have so many games coming out that there isn't any just one show that can handle or hold all of the announcements. You've had Greenberg out here talking about how big of a deal that next year is going to be and how Xbox is going to be celebrating, the 25th anniversary in a really big way. You've heard Sarah talk about it. You've heard Phil Spencer come out and talk about it. But there was a quote here from Jason Ronald, who made waves during his BBC interview from last week, talking about, when he was asked specifically about backwards compatibility. And he came out and he said, and I'm going to quote him here, Jason Ronald, who helped design and create the Xbox Series X and S, says, I can't announce anything today, but in 2026, it's the 25th anniversary of Xbox, and we want to celebrate the great legacy and history that we have with Xbox, as well as, now this is where this conversation is going to go, Infinite Number. He finishes his conversation off by saying, defining the future for where the Xbox ecosystem is going. And a shout out to Xbox News for Koreans, who said this: 2026 will not only bring many Xbox first-party games, but more importantly, it will be a year when the future of the Xbox ecosystem is redefined. They go on to say, I'm excited to see what announcements are coming. They have already been plenty of hints. And this is coming off of, a linked article, which I will, of course, link their Twitter account so you can follow them, but also the story in which this came from, and that was windowscentral.com. And, of course, those are our good friends. But, where I want to walk down this path is this, Infinite Umbra. Next year is going to levy new Xbox hardware. The question is this: is it going to release next year? Right, that's one of the questions, because we have been hearing for quite some time, Umbra, that there is a rumor, and there has been a rumor floating around that there is a OEM device, a partnered home console for underneath the TV that could be releasing next year. Now, why that's important is because, from what we understand and what we've heard from people like Jez Corden of Windows Central, that the hardware, the official Xbox designed hardware by Jason Ronald and his team, will not be ready to go until 2027. Now, next year being the 25th anniversary, having a lot of games to release could be a great spot for a piece of hardware, whether it be their own or others. Now, one of the things that I want to focus on in this conversation, chat, is when should this announcement happen? Because hardware is usually saved for the June showcase. Like, that would be the spot. But the June showcase could levy their own hardware for 2027. Like, how I can envision it in my mind, and I'm going to be in LA for this. I've already made plans. I've already reached out to the powers that be. They know I'm flying out to LA. I'm going to be there, boots on ground, ass in seat. I'm not missing this for the world. So 25th anniversary, I'm going to be there by hook or by crook. And I hope a lot of people from the community show up there as well. And it's going to be a party from start to finish. Cannot wait to be a part of it. But I think, Umbra, we could see, if there's going to be OEM hardware, I think that there's a chance that shows up early 26. So again, folks, walk with me on this. If June is going to be the Xbox showcase by the numbers, they're going to show us what's coming out the rest of the year. They're going to show us what's coming out at the end of the year. They're going to have a couple of surprises, some new announcements, potentially hardware for 27. If what Jason Ronald said here, defining the future of where the Xbox ecosystem is going. Now, this is just me, equate that with hardware, because the ecosystem is where the hardware is, right? And I think that if they are not ready to launch their own hardware, Umbra, there's a good chance they could have a partnered piece of hardware, and that partner could be Asus, because they've already released this year a pair of handhelds that are that were incredibly reviewed well. They sold well. People like me are using them every day and very much enjoying it. And if they can get a piece of OEM hardware out next year, in a year that's a celebratory year from the start to the end of the year, with a bunch of games that could take advantage of what could be a preview to Magnus, where do you put that? Because if the June showcase is the end of the bookend and the start of this bookend is the January event, which of course has been announced and confirmed, where do you put this? Well, you could put this at the end of the year, but if you're going to release it in the holiday, that wouldn't work. So maybe you do something in the spring. Maybe you have a celebratory, 25th anniversary event that they haven't announced yet that could levy this hardware. Let's get your thoughts on this. Again, it's a lot of speculation, but it's speculation that I think is potentially attainable.
Yeah. So it's another one of those situations where it's possible, but I don't know if it's probable. The way I see it, 2026 at first, when we first started talking about this, it seemed like a reasonable thing. Like, okay, I can kind of see that. That was like, I don't know, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Now I'm not so sure. Obviously, next year, if it did release, that would be on its 25th anniversary. So that would coincide, as far as like good timing when it comes to that. But that would only give them a 6-year window for the series consoles too, which I don't think they would want, just a six-year window. To be fair, though, I mean, I could say that, but then somebody could argue, well, this is largely not going the way they've desired as far as console sales and things like that either, where Sony has, more than doubled the sales or whatever as far as console sales go. Although Microsoft has moved away from that being their primary focus, they still do want to sell boxes, right? So my thinking would be, if anything, late 2027. And remember the documents that were leaked with the FTC thing and everything. It was talking about 2028. Obviously, that stuff is outdated. We saw a lot of stuff already that was changed, due to that. Well, not due to that, but eventually changed because it just put off timing for things. Excuse me. So I think what makes the most sense will possibly be 2027. Something tells me they're not ready for 2026. And I see our good brother Paris in the chat there. He's saying that the RAM shortage changes everything for the
That's
OEM.
another great point. Shout out to Paris Lily. Great to see you in the chat, brother. But that's a really great point. The situation with the RAM kind of gums up a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I told him that beforehand. He's just saying what I told him. But yeah, no, but seriously, I mean, that's a great point. But yeah, that too. And I feel like, again, I look at it other things too. Like people, I forgot her name, but the what was the COO? I forgot, of Sony. She mentioned Sony was in the middle of what they consider the middle of the PS5.
Their lifespan for the PS5. Yes,
right. And that doesn't dictate anything for Microsoft necessarily. I mean, we saw with the 360 how they did. They released it a year earlier than Sony, and I wouldn't doubt that they would want to get an advantage like that again, which is why I feel like 2027 could still work. I think that would still be a year before Sony would try to go live with a new console. I think Sony would aim for 2028. So that I think that still works out for that reason. What Paris pointed out with the RAM makes a lot of sense. There has been rumors too that I don't know how true this would be or how much sense it would make, but it was allegedly, or rumors at least, that Microsoft would have a revised Series X that would be easier to make, more cost effective for them, so it might be cheaper to sell. I don't know how true that is. So that also gives me pause to think that they're going to bring out next gen just yet. I do still have my doubts about Fable, though. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I feel like that could be a next gen thing, And the more time that goes by where we haven't quite heard anything, the more I kind of start thinking that could be the case. And if that is the case, maybe it'll be cross-gen where, they have it release, let's say, I don't know, early 2027. Maybe that's when the next consoles drop. Who knows? I think Microsoft typically sticks to November, as we see. So I'm still sticking to the late 2027, if anything. What I do think, though, that would happen is next year, 2026, Microsoft may do a repeat of what they did at the VGAs and announce the next gen there. Possibly. They've kind of deviated from them. Well, I don't want to say they deviated from the VGAs necessarily, but I think
I think they have. I think that's a fair point. I basically called it the finally Xbox, and I'm being facetious, giving Jeff the FU basically.
I'm torn on it because on one hand, they probably didn't have anything they wanted to show there. And since they have their own direct going typically now in January, it's like, what's the use of going there to show anything, right? So it could be the case that they might do this themselves and have their own conference to showcase the new console, or they may use the VGAs because there are a ton of eyes on it, right? And it worked out, I think, initially well for the series consoles. So I don't know, but I feel like 27 sounds like a safer bet nowadays in my head.
I mean, listen, this is a lot of speculation talk, right? Next year, at least in my opinion, we are going to see hardware by hook or by crook. I'm sorry. No one is going to get me off of this square. And I say that with confidence because if you are prepping your current audience, that there are over 30 million Xbox Series users, right? Now, I know that in some circles that has shrunk down to as much as they've only sold 13 million because it's a running joke. Every week it gets a little less. They sold 30 million consoles, folks. Now, yes, is that half of Sony? I actually think it's more. I think it's closer to 40. But is it half? Yeah, it is half of the PlayStation. PlayStation is going to be announcing 90 after this holiday season. That people buy PlayStation 5. It's the most popular console. That's just what it is. But with that said, I don't think there's going to be. This would be if they would release an OEM partner device. It wouldn't be called this, but it would be their mid-gen refresh, so to speak. Now, I know that Paris said that next year is going to be more about the full screen experience, and he's not wrong. They want to get that full screen experience and the UI, the universal UI that we've all been asking for, up and running. We want to see how they're going to take, using AI and get all of your games playable on any device that you call an Xbox. That's another big thing that they're working on. We are going to see hardware. I'm telling you, we are at some point, whether that be hardware that they're announcing and launching next year in the potential partner device. And I think Paris is on something here, and I didn't even consider it originally, that the shortage of memory is a problem, because if you don't have the memory, you can't make the consoles. That's just the way it is.
Seems like he agrees with me. He says you will see hardware in November 15th of 2026, which was the anniversary.
Yes, that makes sense.
And have available holiday 2027.
Yes.
Paris stole my answer once again. I've said it before you posted it, luckily, this time.
Well, look, Jamie Moran, I want to bring you in. We're talking hardware. There are a lot of pros and cons to new hardware. The pros would be a OEM device, because we know that Microsoft's own new Xbox isn't ready. The cons being one of the biggest conversations of 2025 so far, at least to close out the year, has been the RAM situation. The memory situation is not good. And unfortunately, that's going to probably gum up a lot of the potential of an OEM device. It really is. But with that said, I really believe that we are going to get the hardware reveal. And I think that, when you look at what they're doing for the actual anniversary, which nothing has been announced, right? We only know the June showcase because that happens every year. They're going to have a June showcase. We know that they're going to have a developer direct, and this is the 4th year running, and it's already been announced. So we know of 2 shows. They're probably going to Gamescom. They're probably going to Tokyo Game Show. They're going to show up in some way or fashion at the Game Awards, and I think they're going to have a lot of games nominated this year again because they have a lot of bangers releasing this year. Whether the press wants to admit it or not, Xbox is going to be leading the charge. But I want to keep it up tight with hardware. What are your thoughts on this, Jamie? Do you think that we could get OEM hardware or not? And more importantly, when do you think we're going to get a hardware reveal, whether that be partnered or their own for 27?
You know, I've been itching to talk about the whole RAM thing. Like, I've been on the edge of my seat to say, let me speak.
Yeah, please take it away.
So yesterday, one of my friends texted me saying that the £100 RAM he bought for his PC 3 years ago, it's £500 now.
Whoa.
Yeah. You can buy an Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 for that, right? The RAM for my PC, and my PC is an editing rig, right? The RAM in that, as of a couple of months ago, cost $48.99. It costs £200 today.
Jesus Christ, that's 4 times the price. Wow.
I get it. Hardware is exciting, but like, I've never really looked at an Xbox Series game and thought, wow, that looks blurry, you know, or like, I wish the frame rate was higher. Like, I'm perfectly content with the hardware I've got. This generation's been weird, right? We're all stuck in the house during the first 2 years of this generation.
Yeah.
Tons of games got delayed because remember the first 2 years of this generation, everyone was complaining like, where's the games at? It was a very slow release schedule because a lot of offices were closed. Game developers couldn't make the games they wanted to, you know. So like, this generation's been off to a slow start, and we're getting there now. Like, this year's been an amazing year for video games. Next year is arguably even better, right? So I don't think there's really any hurry for hardware. I really don't. Like, outside of the RAM thing, which I'll talk about in a second, like, I don't really see people asking for like, oh, we need a shiny new Xbox, right? This generation, it just feels like it's getting started. You watch the Game Awards the other day, there's unbelievable looking games coming out.
Yeah.
Do we really, like, hardware is always exciting to talk about. And I know Microsoft have had this obsession with talking about hardware for the past year constantly because people keep asking if hardware is going to exist. So it's like this weird back and forth. Like, Microsoft has to constantly reassure people that hardware is coming. So people are constantly talking about hardware, right? And look, OEM hardware in next year, I don't understand where that fits into the scenario because, like, in my opinion, next gen Xbox is 2027 at the earliest, right? So OEM hardware next year would literally be an Xbox Series X with maybe more storage, right? I don't understand why there would be an investment in that. Maybe Microsoft doesn't want to produce many more Xbox Series consoles as they ramp up to the next generation, so they let other third parties take care of the Series generation. That I can see. But the RAM situation's apocalyptic right now, right? If I remember correctly, there's only like maybe four companies on Earth that make the RAM modules. And one of them, they're going to pull out in like the second quarter next year and only deliver RAM modules to companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft AI, all this stuff, right? So like, they are no longer going to supply RAM modules to consumer electronics, right? So there's going to be I don't want to sound over the top, but a RAM apocalypse next year, right? You know, it's all going to be like Mad Max. We're all going to be driving around cars in the desert looking for RAM. But like next year, like televisions, everything that has RAM in it is going to shoot up in price. Like I can't stress enough. Like, this is bad. This is a really bad situation. It's going to affect everyone. So like I can't really see Microsoft like doing anything big with hardware next year, and I can't see Microsoft announcing their console like they did with the Series X. Right? Look at PlayStation. Excuse me. Look at PlayStation and Nintendo. Right? They announced their consoles a couple of months before they released. Right? Microsoft, they announced their Series X. It was a huge publicity stunt, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. I have a Series X. It's one of my favorite consoles of all time. It was a cool announcement, but like, that means you have a year of people going, you know what? I'm not going to buy this console. I'll wait for the next one. Right? you know, I'm just reading the comments here. It's hilarious. But like, I can't see Microsoft announcing another console a year out, because that's a year of people saying, oh, I shouldn't get a Series X. I think, like, when they talk about the future of the ecosystem, it's all about the Xbox big screen experience. They've been talking about, backwards compatibility, bringing Xbox 360, Xbox One games and Series titles to PC is backwards compatibility. There's even been a hint that they'll bring more backwards compatibility titles out, right? So, like, I think, like, that is the 2026 play, right? You're going to have all these big tentpole games such as Forza, and I'm with Umber with this. I think Fable could get delayed, but at the same time, I don't care. Next year is looking amazing, and delays don't really bother me that much, right? It's a video game. I'll get over it, and I'm looking forward to Fable. But, like, you have Gears of War E-Day, Halo campaign evolved, and this year, Xbox released 6 games that weren't even announced until this year. So when Aaron Greenberg talks about, like, big games coming out next year, like, I think it's going to be an amazing year for games. But the ecosystem, like, backwards compatibility, big player, because people love backwards compatibility. People have been wanting the ability to play their 360 games on PC. That'll be some cool tech, right? But, like, this OEM hardware, this Xbox next generation hardware, I can't see it coming in the foreseeable future. Like, 2027, that'll be a conversation, maybe. But, like, at the minute, nobody's really asking for next gen hardware, and the RAM situation is just bad. It's really bad. The RAM situation may not be sorted for another 2-3 years, right? It's bad, but we'll see what happens. But I'm really excited. Look, I always talk about backwards compatibility. I yap on about 360 stuff all the time because that's my favorite generation of games. And, like, when they brought a big batch of 360 games out on the 20th anniversary of Xbox, people lost their minds, right? And
Yep.
I think maybe we'll get this. Maybe we'll get the same thing. Maybe we'll get another batch of cool names. Remember, one of the games that they made backwards compatible is 50 Cent Blood in the Sand, right? That's now one of the rarest 360 games you can buy.
The game
That
is
went
dope,
from,
by the way.
yeah, that game went from like 50p on Amazon to about £300 overnight because of the backwards compatibility. But yeah, look, next year is going to be great, but it's all going to be games and software, and I'm cool with that. Hardware, it'll be fun when we get to it in a couple of years, but, like, OEM hardware, first party hardware, I just can't see it happening anytime soon. Like, again, the RAM I have in my PC is like 300% more than it used to cost, right? So I will see.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because now that I sit back and I'm hearing what you had to say, and Umbra, and of course, shout out to Paris Lily in the chat who brought up the RAM situation. It's pretty crazy how the shortage of RAM could logistically have changed these OEM plans for Microsoft. And as much as I think it'd be great to get hard, see me thinking out, just being a fan, it would be a great story for new hardware in 26 to go along with a new Gears of War, a remade Halo Combat Evolved, and a new Forza Horizon 6. Now, of course, you can add Fable to that conversation. You can add Clockwork Revolution, which is expected to release next year, could actually show up at the developer direct in January. I mean, that's game looks like it was ready, a year and a half ago. You also have Modern Warfare 4, and there's some new information about the next Call of Duty that just broke today. We'll probably be talking that more than likely either on Thursday or Friday show. So the deck is stacked for Xbox first party, and that's just what we know. There's a lot of games, and you know what? You keep hearing, like, Matt Booty and more specifically, like Aaron Greenberg talk about surprises. We could get other surprises for games that we did not know were ready to release, or games something like State of Decay 3, which some people think is 27. That's a game that could show up as well. I mean, that game has been in development for quite a bit. So that could also release next year. Next year is going to be one of the most bombastic Xbox first-party years we've ever seen. And I said that about this year, where they had 13 releases, but every one of the games I made mention of just now, gentlemen and chat, are bangers, like legitimate bangers. So next year is going to be an incredible year. And I know we've seen a couple of trolls in the chat, and we've had a couple of people come at me on Twitter, tell me, well, all those games coming to PlayStation. Okay, I mean, I used to get upset with that, but it's the path that they're walking. So now I don't give a crap. I just don't. Yes, could all those games release on PlayStation at some point? Yes. Will some of those games release day and date? Sure. Will all of those games? Not really. I don't think so. I mean, we know at least Forza Horizon 6 won't, and that's been confirmed. But if they did, I wouldn't care. I just wouldn't care. But look, next year is going to be a heck of a year for Xbox. This is one heck of a show. Now, I did say we had 3 topics, but the next topic is a bit lengthy, and I don't really want to, keep Umber because he did work at midnight, and obviously we want to get people back, to doing what they have to do. It's the holidays, folks. I got a ton of running around to do, as I've been doing every day after each show. But look, I do want to catch up on super chats. We'll get some final thoughts from everybody in the chat. And first of all, let me just get right. Let me get to them because there's been quite a few. So we have here Ray Chi, who's been a channel member for 2 months. So thank you so much for the kind generosity. He says Microsoft has a lot of RAM, but it's for Azure. So maybe Magnus will be cloud exclusive for a while. That's interesting. I mean, they could release cloud hardware, which was in the cards at one point and is no longer. The full screen experience that, like Paris Lily mentioned earlier, is something they really want to bring to fruition. In order for that to happen, though, they really do need to get this universal UI to all work in tandem. What you see on your screen on your home console is going to need to look and act on your handheld, on your TV, on your tablet, on your PC. And they're working towards that. I actually cannot wait for when that actually does happen, when we can have that conversation, because then that is officially where Xbox is going to be everywhere, when one thing looks like the other and that you can't really tell the difference outside of the screen that you're on, which is going to be a lot of steps forward, and I think ahead of PlayStation and Nintendo for that matter. But Ray Chi, thank you for the kind support. We also have Will the Broke Boy Insider dropping not one but $2 super chats, and he says this: I'm patenting the phrase Rampacalypse, Jamie. That's really good. And what do you call it? Everyone ready? Steam codes incoming. Thank you so much for that. He also has an additional very generous $5 super chat, and he says, "Gotta wait for the rest of them. My order just said they ran out of codes for the other 10 games. Hopefully later." Well, brother, thank you so much for. I mean, listen, hopefully you do get your codes. Make sure you follow up on that for sure. But look, before we get out of here, I do want to remind everybody that this Friday is we're the week before Christmas, and obviously the shows are going to be limited to what we do for the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to have shows on Monday and Tuesday of next week, and Monday and Tuesday of the week afterwards. The other, we're taking some time off, folks. We're going to recharge our batteries, hang out with our family that are coming in, and just enjoy the end of the year because it's already stressful AF. But what we are going to do this Friday, and it's something that Mrs. Boom and I do very much look forward to, that is going to be the 8th annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. Now, we have already announced that we are giving away $500 of digital prizes, 10 $50 gift cards, and what we're doing is we're going to give the winners a choice of where they want those gift cards to be, because you may use them for a gift for someone, for all we know, and that has happened. So we're going to offer Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo eShop, or even Steam. So if you do win, and all you got to do is be in the chat. You don't even have to be a channel member. You don't have to drop a super chat. You don't even have to be sub to the channel. You simply have to be in the chat during the live stream, which will be Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you once you put the hashtag in, you'll be registered via the StreamYard picker. And if your name is called, you will win said prize. That prize will allow you to pick wherever you want your digital gift, whether, again, to be PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, or Steam. But if you are someone outside of the Americas, and this is where we're really proud, we do offer that gift as well. And we will send you the prize via PayPal, and PayPal only. We don't use Cash Apps or any bank transfers or anything like that. We simply use PayPal, and we will send you the money to wherever you are in the world, and you will get your prize. And there are no transfer fees. You pay nothing. We pay any fees that are charged to us. You don't have to worry about that. And we will have 1, 2, or maybe 3 additional prizes that we have not announced yet, because we did not announce any grand prize winners. We'll announce those during the live stream. So if you want a shot of one of what could be 12 prizes, because we have 2 grand prizes that we have not announced, and we also have 10 $50 gift cards that we're giving away, and they're all digital, so you're not going to get a physical gift card, but all you got to do is tune in for what will be the 8th annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. And folks, we cannot do this without the support. Now, of course, again, this year has been tough for everybody. So, of course, we did a much bigger giveaway last year. As a matter of fact, we gave away $2,000. We just could not afford to do that this year. We're saving for our first home, and we can only give what we get. And we do take a lot of the channel memberships and the channel, everything that we get, and we do stock it away. And we then, after Google gets their 30%, because they get their 30%, we then try to make as many giveaways. And this year we've had quite a few, but this is our big one. So this year is going to be a $500 giveaway. And that's all thanks to you fine folks for channel memberships, super chats, gifted subs. All of those things matter in a really big way for us. So thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. But let's get everyone on out of here. We'll start first with Infinite Umbra, so you can go get some sleep, kind sir. Sell the brand of the fixed. You, Crusader, and Daniel J. McGee do a great job each and every week talking about the pop culture that includes both wrestling, and we just had John Cena in his final match, which was pretty interesting. I'm actually surprised that he retired, but he's also going to be doing a lot of films, so that's probably why he wants to take a break from wrestling. I would imagine at some point he's going to come back. He's going to run into the ring and do something diabolical for sure. But you also talk about comics. There is a rumor that you're going to get not 1 but 2 Marvel trailers during the Avatar Fire and Ash film that's coming out. And one could be Spider-Man Brand New Day. The other one could be Marvel's Avengers Doomsday, which is going to be dope. But you also talk about, video games. Sell the brand, brother. Where could people tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays? But more importantly, follow you guys on social media. That's for you, Umbra. Uh-oh. Did he fall asleep? Or is he having mic trouble? I heard something and then he went away. You know what? While we wait for him to either wake up or return, Jamie Moran, are you doing a show this evening with Logan Meyer? And if you are, well, folks, you want to tune in because it's called the All Things Xbox Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And it goes live 8 p.m. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people check that out? And more importantly, follow you guys on social media.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, so we had no show last week because I had food poisoning. That was fun.
Man.
Yeah, not fun. But other than that, I'm good now. So we have a new show coming tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, 6
On
p.m. Okay, great.
the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel, All Things Xbox podcast. We're going to go over every single game that was announced at the Game Awards that's coming to Xbox. We're going to talk about Expedition 33, Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, which is out available now on Xbox. That's going to be fun. We're going to be. I tend to rant about Splinter Cell every week. That's going to be happening. We're also going to be talking about BioWare, Mass Effect, all that type of stuff. It's going to be a really fun show. It's going to be a long show as well. But yeah, that's 6 p.m. Eastern on the Elusive Gamer YouTube channel.
Well, again, we look forward to it because you do have a lot of topics, and it's a fun show. It's not negative, it's not toxic in any way, and that's what I enjoy doing. That's why we do the shows here the way we are. We can be pointed as we were regarding Marathon, but I think there's a lot of concern for that game. There's a lot of concern for Bungie, and I think that if people want to put their head in the sand and not talk about it, then that's fine. But it is a story that broke, and it's a story that I think is not going to have a happy ending. I just don't think that game is going to succeed, and it might be a little too late because if that game came out maybe a year ago before Arc Raiders, maybe it has a shot. But it just looks. I don't know if it's going to be any different than what people. I know that there's been some talk about it potentially looking a little bit more grittier than the that clean room look that Umber was talking about. But we'll see. We will certainly see. Again, folks, if you are a PlayStation gamer looking to see what the investment in Bungie from Sony looked like, well, here it is. Again, it's going to be everywhere. You're going to be able to play it. I don't know if anyone is going to show up, and if they do, how long are the legs in this game? Well, only time is going to tell. In March 2026 is when this game is releasing, and apparently there's going to be some sort of a mass demo right before it's released. I guess to check the pulse of the gaming community on this game, but we'll see. Umber, are you back, sir? All right, so Umbra is not back. Well, look, folks, again, you got to give the guy a break. He works midnights, and the fact that he's here on Tuesdays almost every week is a lot. So look, for Umbra, the show. It's called The Fix, 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday evenings with him, the newest member, Crusader, as well as Daniel, I Hate Nintendo McGee, and you can tune in on his YouTube channel and check that out, folks. Please stop by, subscribe, and of course, see Santa Rosa says KO. I see a lot of the commentary. I don't want to read it because, of course, Umbra does not have to be here, and he's here every Tuesday. So thank you so much, Umbra, wherever you may be in your dreams. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. A big thank you to you for hanging out with us for almost 90 minutes, and of course, a big thank you to Aniba.com for sponsoring today's show. And like I said, considering the size of the channel, sponsorships are not lining up at the door for almost anybody in this business. And we have a few that we're working with right now, and a few that I cannot wait to announce in 2026. And like I said, it's a really big deal for us. Again, the size of the channel is probably why we don't have 10, 15 of them, because there are some big channels that do. But the fact that we have 2 and potentially another 2 to talk about, really big ones next year, has us very excited. And that would not be possible without the kindness of you fine folks for being here and supporting Double Barrel Gaming. And of course, a big thank you once again to all the super chats, channel member chats, and gifted subs. And we will close out today's show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.